we are live on Facebook. Hello, everyone. Um, we are doing Yogis Off the Mat. It's Thursday, it's 10. And so I think we'll start with introductions, as we like to do, because we may not all know each other. So this week we are featuring Kelly, my dear friend Kelly. I am also Kelly. But we're really talking about diving deeper into mentorship and having teachers who have kind of helped pave the way for us and helped us when we're new, we don't know what's going on. And so Kelly, I met in a training, and she was my actual teacher in a prana vinyasa training. But I feel like our relationship has definitely grown since training. I feel much more the mentor relationship, after the physical training, but definitely we met in yoga teacher training, and you teach EV prana vinyasa, such a style to the heart. So this is Kelly, and we'll be talking a lot. And then this is Cherise, another awesome yogi, and we've been doing this kind of weekly, and she's in Washington State right now. She's all things yoga and art, and is really in service, really for everything of sharing for others, what makes you feel good.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Our awesome Kelly leader here and other Kelly leader that we're going to get to know a little better.
Um, so Sharice is really amazing in that she always has a list. She always has some questions and some ideas. So if you want to kind of get us going on a topic, what do you have a question about mentorship, or what do you feel in general? Where are we going?
Well, I wanted to learn a little bit more about you guys, and then we can go from there into like general mentorship and advice that we might have for people. So I wanted to find out, well, you kind of already covered it. So you guys met in a training, and then
In San Clemente, California, which is Kelly's hometown, actually. And I think she was away and then came back. And one of her first trainings she was offering back in town, I happened to be working at that studio.
Yeah, it was the very first training that I offered in San Clemente that you were in, and since then, since 3 years ago, I've done three full 300 hours. You did the 200-hour, but I've done three full 300-hour trainings, and have just, like we were talking about before we came live, started another one in Manhattan Beach. Not doing one in Orange County until the fall, and it's a wild time to be like leading these prana vinyasa trainings, and that was a sweet first round back in my hometown. It's really nice to be back here. It's been 3 years. It still feels like yesterday that I just came home.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it was interesting for me to come into a prana vinyasa training because I had already been teaching and I had already done two trainings. I had this 200-hour that I really love. That's where Sharice and I met. And it was very eye-opening. I mean, it was a whole new world. That was really yoga to me. And so I had that, then I did another training. So it was interesting to come into a different style of training, feeling kind of in my mind like, oh, I already know this. I already have an idea of what's going on. And really, prana vinyasa changed the way that I do yoga, not just how I teach it or how I share it, but really it's something settled in that was so unexpected. Something settled in that was like, oh, this has a feeling. And I notice now much more that I'm less rigid about like a shape or a philosophy or something really specific, and more like, oh, we'll feel it through and we'll get it, because a lot of that dropped in later. I'm like, you can't get it until you get it.
Yeah, that was actually something I kept saying, and I always say in my trainings. It's like, well, Bob Marley wisdom. I think one of my other students just made a little testimonial and said, I feel like she's a Bob Marley wisdom Bible, like whatever. Anyways, but I love to speak from these wisdom hearts that really speak through their souls. And Bob Marley says, "Who feels it knows it." So really, like that to me is it. Like you cannot teach something to anyone that they are not ready to receive. That's a powerful, powerful thing to get in life, really, because a lot of times people will project, right, their perception of like, oh, this teacher didn't give me what I needed, or that class doesn't do for me what I want. Like, this is how people walk around the world with this, like, oh, it's them, it's that, it's this. And it's actually always us, always our ability to receive in that moment what's dropping in. And that's why I say whatever goes in and out, don't worry. When it's ready, it will circle back and drop in because the seeds have been planted. Right? The seeds have been planted. And so then it's about creating that fertile body soil for the seeds to grow. And so through practice, I mean, that's why, so many of the ancient wisdom teachers have just said, practice is what's going to teach you what you need to know. Because and no words that I say or you say or Cherise says are actually going to drop anybody in where they're not ready to go, right? So that's the power of practice, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you said so beautifully. So I was gonna also find out, and I feel like some of my questions they're flowing so organically from you guys, so I love it. Thank you so much. But I was gonna ask you, about your mentorship relationship. Kelly kind of already touched on that it just organically happened. Is that right?
Well, yeah. So I mean, I connect really deeply with every student that comes in the flow. I mean, I feel like that's actually my job as a teacher, and maybe my dharma as a human is to connect really deeply from the heart. So I don't take it lightly, and so I actually get sad when I lose connection with friends who were on the path. I get like, oh, but I get it. Like, we're all weaving in and out. So I really cherish these relationships. And Kelly was always super special with me, to me. Like from the moment I met her, I didn't know she was going to do the training. It was just our connection in the front of the, studio each day. And I just love her bright, shiny eyes, and her soul speaks through them. And so when she was jumping in the training, I was like, oh, really? Oh my gosh, because I knew that also that would bring us closer. I'm an only child. I think I'm just always excited to have new friends. It's like my nature. But yeah, so she dove in, and I could feel it's like actually that training was pretty intense, beautiful teaching opportunity for me and learning opportunity for me, in the sense that in that room, I think there were 7 people who were already pretty like well established in their teaching and had pretty solid ideas about who they thought they were in the world, and you know what I mean. And yoga just doesn't accept that. Like that, just it's like, oh, you think oh, let's shake you out. Let's shake out that idea that we are formed at any certain point, because we're always evolving and changing. And so the beauty is that I stepped in and I was like, whoa, okay, I'm in a hot seat, and I could feel it, and I was just massaging my way through it. And sometimes I'd come home and I'd be like, oh my God, my soul, like after a weekend of training, because there was so much like just intensity about like, well, isn't it this way? But that word is this, and this word is that. I'm like, oh, this is always changing, evolving. So the beauty of that cycle was the connectivity. And then it's interesting, I will say, like, because Kelly and I were really close then. And what I love about what you're saying is that the mentorship happened after. It took you moving away to realize what had dropped in. And that's how I felt with my first teacher training. It took a year before things were really dropping in of the gifts that I was given from those little wisdom droppings. And so the power that I find is that when she stepped back in the room, moving back, and tears of joy and connectivity, I will never forget. And I was just so excited. We were all so excited because in that room that day, I think there was like a half dozen other friends from your past training or whatever, and then people who remember you. And so it's, I guess when we find our tribe, we just, it doesn't matter how far we go, we come back. And so it's funny, I always think of myself, I love, this concept of mentorship, and yet I actually always just feel like I'm equals, kind of like we're all friends walking each other home, the Ram Dass, like that's how I really feel. And so when I hear those words of like mentorship, I'm like, oh no, we're just friends. We're just friends. And yet I get it, because like just like we all are learning, like we're all teachers and students. So anyhow, how we met is this one way, how it's evolved is this other way, where it's going, who knows?
Right.
Yeah. I think that was definitely, that's a big thing. Going back a little bit about feeling when you're in actually the groove of training, the flow of what's happening, is that really when we're the students, when we're the ones who have signed up to say, I want to learn something new and I want to challenge the way that I do this thing. I want to be the best version of myself. You also put yourself out there, to see where you can grow. But what often happens is we challenge our teachers. I mean, I can think so much, even in our first training, when Cherise and I were in our first training, I can think so much. There were exercises so often that our teacher was doing just to get us to use our voice and us to get out there to feel comfortable. And I was so frustrated with her. I was like, these exercises are so dumb. This is dumb. But really, it was my thing around. And then later, out of training, you're like, I loved that one time that we did that circle and I did this. And she was like, you did not love that. You were mad. You were so mad. You did not love that. And so I think, one thing that I said to Cherise before we got you on was really, I want to remember to tell friends that are on right now. I know we have some friends on Facebook that it's natural. It is sometimes, yes, you meet people and you say, I want you to help me do this, and we're going to schedule these times, and we're going to dive into these specific things, and that can happen. That's a thing. But often in my life experience, that's not the way. The people that you end up really falling in love with and coming to for advice, whether it's professional or personal or all of it, or that connection, or often it happens that yes, I can move away and I can come back, and that can be okay. I can go on my own journey in this big circle.
Yeah, I'm getting little goosebumps because it actually reminds me of like how we choose our partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like our greatest teachers. I mean, yoga is relationship. Yoga is relationship to self, to our own personal evolution, soul evolution, and then how that expands out to our relationships with others. So like when we get closer to one another, we get that little like sometimes we get that little like oh friction because we're being supported to grow, activated to grow. It's like when like when we're in that place where we're about to expand out. It's not comfortable. It's just not comfortable, and so that is part. Forget I'm pretty sure it was my teacher Shiva Ray who has really imagined or visualized us as like midwives, right? Like yoga teachers are really midwives, and yoga teacher trainers are really like birthing this new way of sharing, but we can't share what we don't integrate. And I think that's the most potent piece is what you're sharing is like it got integrated, and then you're like, whoa, now it's making sense. And that's when we come back for more. That's actually once we start to feel like that, like the little sprouts, then we're like, okay, now the flowers are grown and some things are growing to seed. Now we're ready to go back in and renew and activate and kind of continue. And so yoga teaching and training is like a way of life. Like if you're a yoga teacher, you're definitely not doing it for the money.
For sure.
I mean, well, of course it can make you a living, but like, let's look at what just happened. Oh, everything collapses. You're like, where does this go? It's a heart path. It's a heart path. And so I think my teacher training, and it was probably one of the first things I said, if you're doing this to make money, rethink about what you're doing, right? If you're doing this because it's a heart and soul inspiration and you want that transformation for your personal life, and when you're willing to take that time to integrate and then see what we have to share, right? This is like the kramas, but a lot of people have lost that krama. It's like, oh, I've got my certificate, so now I'm going to teach privates, or I'm going to take a group on retreat. And you're like, whoa, it's like a wild world. And not to limit people, because some people are ready. They may have had other backgrounds and things, but it's really wild to witness where I came from, where I was asked to teach a yoga class, and I was like, I haven't been to India, and I haven't taught yoga for 20 years. I was 23. I couldn't imagine teaching yoga then. I was like, oh, what do you mean? So then I reached out to my teacher and she said, teach, that's what you'll learn what you need to know. And this was in like 93, right? Way back, way back. And so in retrospect of like the evolution of now, it's like, oh, I did a 6-week teacher training and now I've got a certificate. So I'm gonna, you know, like I'm a master.
Ready to go.
Such a different, like, I mean, it's such a wild time. And so navigating now and as a guide, really getting clear what it is, what's the difference, what are you here for? Really, so you know, thanks for these questions. It's powerful to share that, right, with others.
Exactly. Well, and like Kelly was kind of mentioning, and we've had a few conversations about it, but like, you know, there's like the official and formal kind of like mentorship relationship, right? Where you're like, you go into it knowing like, oh, you are going to be my mentor, and these are the things that we're going to give each other. And kind of to what you said too, Kelly, this Kelly, not Kelly, you know, but yeah, well, you guys know, you know, but there is a friendship because even with my official mentors, we both have something to bring to each other, and there is such a give and take flow between the two. But then I think, you know, to Kelly's point, that there is like this unofficial, organic way that it just happens as well. And I guess for me, I've spent a lot of time thinking about like, where are we as people in our journey when we are at that moment of like seeking a mentor, when you go out and you're like, I need a mentor, and like I'm looking for it because I've been there multiple times, and I've, you know, you go on this path, okay, that wasn't the right one, and it's just that whole journey. But through it, you know, I've found unofficial and official mentors. And I guess the reason why I wanted to talk about that was for others that might be on a similar path, you know, if they're feeling this longing and need, like because of what you both were talking about. You know, I graduated with my certificate of the 200 hours, and then I had been teaching for 2 years or something like that. And then I had all these questions and all this deeper stuff that I was ready to uncover. And I felt like, who do I ask? And at the time too, it was very much like everybody I thought of, oh, I can talk to this person or that person. They all were very busy in their journey, their own thing, and I didn't feel like they had enough space or time to give me. And so it was kind of my own process of that, right? Of like, oh, well, that doesn't feel right, so I just didn't pursue it, which is its own thing. But then I turned to one of my good friends who I say is kind of like my big sister, who's been teaching forever, Emily Stooks, and she just naturally, we just had that give and take pull, like, and she had never trained me. She just was a teacher that I absolutely enjoyed from the very moment that I met her. And then we just grew from there because I would always tell her what she meant to me and all that kind of stuff. And then one day the opportunity came where she put out, oh, I need help in this way. And I was like, me, it's me, I want to help you. And then that grew into this deeper bond. And then she led me to my more official now mentor, Lorraine Hayden, which I think might be watching and we're going to be talking to another time. But I don't know. I guess I'm curious on other people's paths, like how do we guide them to kind of seek out what they need?
It's such an interesting question for someone who has walked the path the way that I have, which is very intuitively. And I haven't sought anything particularly. Yeah. Like, it's just like, oh, okay. I mean, even when I went, so this is really beautiful because I'm getting a look into a modern like world that of course I realize is out there because I see it all out there, but I'm always like, oh, how does that work? How are people advertising mentorship? Like, it's such an interesting reflection for me who comes from a place kind of I guess old school without realizing it, but you know, I have been around a while. Even finding my pathway to starting to do massage was I was literally driving on a dirt road out called Harmony Lane, and I saw a sign that said Heartwood, and I was like, ooh, what's a Heartwood? Looked it up, and it was very magical how I studied massage, found my first physical yoga teacher. I had been practicing from books, a little class in high school at the college, which I didn't love, since I was 13. So then this was where I found my roots yoga teacher, Dana Uransky, who is so crazy how that's recircled back, that we still have this connection through another student friend. So it's interesting for me because when you're just listening, I guess this would be my advice. When you've when you've dropped into your practice in that deepest way that you possibly can on your own, and you are really listening, that um, through prayer and devotion and honestly offering that up, the friend will show up.
Yeah.
It will be there for you. But that is, I know that's a lot of trust. You know what I mean? That's a lot of trust. And for a very practical person, they're already like this with that. Like, no, I must have a clear pathway. And there are, I mean, researching the people and their backgrounds,
Yeah.
really looking at where they come from, taking classes with them. I mean, obviously at this point in time online, to get a feel for who they are as a human, and do you resonate? Is that vibration resonant? Because really, our mentors are just meeting us exactly where we're at. Why they show up in our lives is because we're ready to receive them, because that frequency, right, has come into that same place. And so I do see that. I see that with students and teachers. When you see like who gravitates to who, you're like, oh, they're like tribe. You feel the vibration and you see where they're at in that flow of evolution. And I do feel that with the friends who I meet up with, who are like super resonant. Like they come in and they're like, this, what is this? Because not everyone does that with prana vinyasa. Some people are like, it freaks them right out. They're like, oh my God, this is way too whatever it is for them. I can't speak for them. But you see it in their faces where they're like, thanks. But then you get the other friends who are like, because in the midst, they're like, what is happening? And there's a fear that comes with transformation. And prana vinyasa is, a friend said, is not for those weak of heart. It's going to invite you to dive into your deepest, most transformative place, meet yourself, melt that resistance, and move into, I say it's a return home to essence. I mean, I think all yoga is, really, and it's all different pathways, rivers home. And so it's again, just finding where you're at now and who that resonant vibration is with now, through connectivity. It's maybe looks good on paper, and you meet the person, you're like, like vibe's not happening. So as far as like researching who you want to connect with on that level, and then of course, like for someone like me who doesn't necessarily have, I've been asked to have a mentor program. I've never created one. I've got I've got over 108 student friends, and I am pretty connected to all of those friends in some way. And of course, somebody comes to me and asks for help, I'm there. And we support each other. That also means they continue to come to my trainings. They also are on Patreon, like help supporting me there, which is really, powerful. It brings me to tears, when you have a whole group of your friends show up from all over the country, even world, online. Like we were in Zoom last week and there was like 30 friends. I'm like, oh my God, look at all this. It's so beautiful. So it's, I guess that reciprocation comes back sometimes naturally too, even if you don't have a formal, program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, so definitely we want to say Patreon has been awesome, I think, for us because, and probably for a lot of other people, we would have to see if they love too, but we had a physical relationship. We did a training together. We also, continue to connect, like you're saying. I mean, we will continue to do whatever. Maybe we'll get a coffee, or maybe we'll just be on the phone, or friends are watching. So hello, sister.
Ireland's happening. Ireland's happening. We just don't know when exactly.
We are going on retreat also. We don't know when, but we are going on retreat. I mean, we're going. We have it picked out. We're going on retreat. But a lot of what was really cool for me about doing your Patreon, which is your online platform, it's how you connect with people online. And for friends that are watching, I'll put the link to that and all this after. So if you're like, "Ooh, what is that? I want to take a class with Kelly," definitely you can, and I'll put it in the link. But it was super cool for us because I would log on to a class and it would feel like we were in class together, and I would hear even just a bit of a background song, and it would remind me of some sensation. So it's not always the same, as being in person. Of course it's not. But there is, I think, a bond that started growing for us as I was able to continue to do classes on my own time. I can do it when I need to. I can do it where I am. And that helped me grow. And then when it would come to me that I'm like, I have a question about this, I'm wondering how this happens now, then I can come when I'm ready. I can come out and be like, what was that? Or what did we do there? How awesome did that feel? That was so I think that kind of an online thing can help when you have a connection, when you're already kind of working with that connection.
So
And
true.
the other thing, as you were talking, I was thinking kind of about, I had a friend, a student one time say, oh, I was thinking of doing a teacher training and I want to go to Bali and I want to go to Thailand and I want you to tell me all the places she wants to go. And so she's choosing a teacher training based on location.
Yeah.
Not that going to this place isn't fun, but she was like, what do you think? And I'm like, I was so surprised because I'm like, I don't think I would ever want to take a teacher training of a person I hadn't met, even if it was Bali. I would,
I'm with you, and yet, however people find their way. I mean, again, I loved my first teacher's offering is you'll learn what you need to know. I mean, so that could be the first of like, oh, next time maybe I get to know who the teacher is before I decide the location, because any of us yoga teachers can be inspired to go to Bali, Thailand, right?
Yeah.
But actually, what's really funny about what you say about the Patreon and the Patreon people, I have to say this is the craziest thing because I wrote them. One of the girls who was on my Patreon was having issues where they basically knocked her off for some reason and she was trying to get back on. It was just that techie, glitchy thing. And I said, well, I know this woman personally because they were like, oh, some of the stuff was like they didn't know, whatever, it's technology, so they only go technology based. So she was probably getting on and off and putting weird numbers in, like, because she couldn't figure it out. And it's not complicated, but we make jokes together. She really has a hard time. And I was like, but I know her personally. She's not like a robot. She's not somebody. And I'm like, I actually know everybody on my Patreon except for like 2 people personally. And they were like, that, we've never heard that before.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, yay. I love that. I love that. Of the 44 people, that's my new number, that I know like everybody personally except for like 2 people. And I mean, I'd love to find the other people I don't know too and connect with them, but it's magical that that's what you're saying, is that those are the people who are like, you know what, and some are local and some are far away, but they want the access whenever they can get it, because it's supporting, right? They're teaching in their life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Do you have
that
time for one more question?
yeah, I was just gonna point out too that I feel like, all 3 of us are yoga teachers, so it's so easy for us to speak from the viewpoint of our own experience and the fact that we are yoga teachers and what the yoga community has or has to bring and that path. But I would love to just like point out for anybody that might be watching us that I feel like everything we've talked about and said is applicable to any walk of life, because for us the experience is through yoga. I think if you're in computer tech world and that's your job or whatever, I think that everybody has this ability to do exactly what we're talking about. And I obviously just pulled that out of random air, just what we were talking about. But any community that you're a part of and you're seeking deeper relationships, and to me, I think that that's truly what a mentor is. It's not necessarily, and we kind of touched on that, is like we have the official and unofficial and whatever. But I think that could kind of be thrown out the window a bit. And it can be more of like just recognizing that this is a relationship and that there's an ebb and flow to the relationship. And like, what does that look like? Is it meeting both people's needs? Those are more pertinent questions, I think, when it comes to talking about mentorship, because people can get way too in their heads about it, right? And there's the path of like people that do promote online and they say, I'm a mentor and pay me this amount of money and I'll help you with these things. And that's also good for certain people and it fits certain needs. So there's no right or wrong way.
There's no one way. That's my motto. I have a picture. I wish I had it right here. It's not in my room, but it's of my dad. And Kelly knows this picture because I brought it to yoga class before. I used to have it in my studio. I had a studio in Bishop, California, Sierra Shanti Yoga, which I support from my heart always, opens that from a place of love. And my friend Lauren Robinson runs it now. And in the studio, it lived there. This picture of my dad, there's two one-way signs that go both directions. And he's sitting there playing his harmonica, like leaning against these two one-way signs that go in opposite directions. And it's that motto, I'm going to make a t-shirt of it. There's no one way, because we are a microcosm of a macrocosm, and we can reflect. I mean, I'm a climber. I've been avid in bike riding and little surfing, and all of these realms, we can see those reflections of ourselves on the rock, for instance, is like on the mat, or is like on the wave, and how we're responding and reacting, or is how we are on the computer. And of course, we have places where we're more developed and less developed, and we have our strengths and our places to work. And so really, a teacher or a mentor, old school way, a guru, right, is one who sheds light through the shadow or through the darkness. So it's another way of learning about ourselves through reflection of others, input from others, but also from our personal experience. And this is all yoga is. It's the big why of yoga. It's not for the mat and the shapes. It's my thing that I love to say is how the inner state informs the outer shape and ripples into the shape of our lives. Right?
Absolutely.
That's yoga in a nutshell for me.
Yeah.
Living yoga, right? Living yoga.
Beautiful. I love that.
Perfectly said.
So I feel like we kind of covered all my questions. I think the biggest ones that I was wanting to end with were just, and we can, ping pong them or let them be with what we've already answered. But, what are the benefits of having this type of relationship, and or, what are ways that people can find a mentor?
I want to tell you that I am so, and I want to hear also what you think, like benefit, too. But I am so benefited. I am so benefited by feeling like I have somebody that I can be totally myself with. I think that's something as this student, as the seeker of whatever, like you said, of yoga, of creating through art, of creating through anything that feels nice and keeps you in the moment, even if it's challenging, yoga's hard sometimes, but if it keeps you in the moment, then, that's the thing, that's the passion, that's wonderful. And I am so benefited by having somebody kind of watch me grow and really let me do my thing. I've had to have a lot of life experiences too, like you said, move away and come back and do this and do that. I mean, I'm everywhere, I'm all around. And every time that we come back, it's helpful, it's good, it feels nice, it lets me know that I'm on the right thing. Like Ireland, this has been something that was real, and suddenly it came back around, and now we are going to go, and we're doing Cherise, I can't remember if I told you, but it's somehow turned into like all of these mother-daughter teams, and we didn't mean for that, but my mom is also going, and I'm so excited for Kelly to meet my mom to meet Kelly, and then Kelly's daughter is also going, and it's like turned
another mother-daughter team. From one lives in Germany and one lives in Bishop, and they're joining together there. Yeah, it's the when now we just have to navigate when.
That's wonderful.
I feel
I'm so benefited as a student. I am so benefited by being myself. I mean, really being yourself. That, like you said, like choosing a partner, you're your best and worst self. You're your full self, and it is what it is.
That's it. I mean, that's it. So my teacher, mentor, sister, friend,
Marianne is watching us. Now we've had a lot of friends join on, but Marianne, another girl that was in my training with Kelly, is watching now. So we say hi to Marianne too.
Well, she's Brazilian and my husband's Brazilian, and so we connected immediately. Yeah, I love that. Well, what was it? My friend Brooke, who's also a student, she's like mother, sister, daughter, friend from Oprah, or something like that. She said the other day. That's how I feel about my teacher. It's like she's my sister. She's like my yoga mama. She's my friend. She's my soul, you know, connection. She's my teacher. She, you know, and she is not ever afraid to tell me exactly what she's thinking and feeling in the moments. And we've become just closer and closer and closer over these last 15 years, to the point where I know she'll giggle if she ever.
Prana sisters.
She, I mean, she's like, I slept on your couch. I mean, yeah, Shiva, you know, came here, did a class in San Clemente, and we didn't want her to drive all the way home. And we were going to give her our bed. She's like, no, 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 like, I'll sleep on your couch. And we sat there and she was like nodding off, you know, at like 2 in the morning, whatever we're talking. But that's what it is, you know. Our teachers become our friends, our sisters, our family, really. And so, and maybe not all relationships end up that way. I get it, and that's also like you were saying, Cherise, that there are different types of mentorships, and I love that. Like it's like that Anise Nin quote, like we don't grow chronologically, right? We're just growing in all the different ways, and so we do kind of need a little bit of input from different realms sometimes, that it's not always that, you know, one way, right? Yeah, thank you for, I love that it's benefiting you. And it's funny sometimes when I say breathings, because now I do, that's totally funny, moving through me, the breathings. And then sometimes I'll say, and
That's my Southern hanging out.
And that's it. I mean, we learn so much from each other, and you come in when I say that, like you're there with me. Like that's it. And my student friends are, I feel you guys, and I think that's the beauty of creating online content, knowing who's there too. It's like feeling you all. When I'm making those little videos or I'm in the live streams and I know you're gonna practice them, I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking of all the friends. So I actually wanted to say, I'm glad I remembered through all our bouncing, ping ponging. I have a free online live stream archive that I'm setting free for the next 2 days, so people can experience. Yep, and I posted it. I did tag you, but I also can just send you the direct link, and it's through the Patreon. And for some reason, everyone who was live on that class that day, there was only like 8. Everybody's like, by the way, I don't know why, but I just dropped in so deep that day. And so it's like, I'm just gonna share this one. I'm just gonna let people feel it and know it.
That's beautiful.
Also, so definitely friends that are watching are already connected with me at least. And so you know how to connect with me, but always I will put the link for the Patreon because there's a lot of cool stuff on Patreon. I think it's really cool. And I didn't know about it until I started following you on it. And so I'll put the link to that and everybody can check out a class. Yeah, if you have in the next 2 days, then you can check it out for free. So definitely do that. You'll follow the link. And what I will also put in the link is Kelly's email and website, just all the information in the ethers that if you do want to connect with Kelly, you'll definitely be able to do it. Also, you can DM me, you know, you can say, hey, what was that? What were you talking about? And it's, you know, we're small enough, we're close enough, we'll all get back to each other. But for sure, I will put in this post, and when we all share the post, the link that you can come on and take a class and kind of see what we're talking about. It's a fun thing to talk, but really, you got to get in it. You got to do it, and then you got to see if you love it and see how it feels.
Yeah. Well, I would love to kind of touch back on something you said, Kelly, and you might have even seen me. I would like grab my pen and like was like, and time to write. But
let's begin. That's
exactly. And I even at some point in this conversation realized that Kelly, I feel like you and I have now, even through this quarantine, have created our own mentorship and that's how we even started doing these live talks. You know what I mean? Like we're friends and we feel deeply connected in the first place. And then we were just having normal conversations, or what we consider normal conversations. And they were so good and so full of energetic life that we were like, let's share this with other people because we're just talking, but it's beneficial, you know? And so I think we should recognize that we are mentoring each other, because actually too, we are learning a ton. Like both of us are like, I don't know how to do it. And we're figuring out a lot together.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I feel that way right now with my friend Shelly, that we're co-leading this teacher training. It's like, I was like, I'm so glad you're like my COVID-19 buddy, that we get to like work through this together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And you said
Kelly, you said, watch me grow. And so I wrote it down because I'm like, oh, that's a little golden nugget that will stick with me. But also, it reflected back to me something that one of my mentors, Lorraine, who I was just talking about, has said to me multiple times, and we've had deep conversations and a whole thing on, is she says, we all deserve to be witnessed. And I think it's the same sentiment, and there's times where sometimes I'll kind of open up to her and I'll feel like, I don't know where this came from and I don't know why I'm saying this to you right now. And she says, we all deserve to be witnessed. And I'm like, okay, thanks, So I love that. I love that it all connects together.
Well, it's funny, even speaking about Mari, the friend who, I don't know if she's still on or not, but when watching all of you guys grow from that first training has been so beautiful for me. And if I go back to the very first training that I guided, and I'm still super connected with those friends, and just watching that arc of growth and transformation, and friends having babies, getting married, like it's just so beautiful. So I love that you brought that. It's like watching your garden grow is the little microcosm, but this is like the wildflower garden, growing is powerful.
Yes. Well, Kelley Doyle or Kelly Carter, either way, do either of you have either like a closing piece that you'd love to share, or even like a breathing exercise or anything like that?
I have something. Let me look it up real quick because it's so funny. I've been wanting to share this poem, which I think that Kelly will remember, but I'll just look it up real quick. And it's What Wants to Be Born in You, Beloved, which I think is very appropriate for mentorship, by Holly Holden. So just give me a second. So hopefully luckily I have my glasses here, because I tell you, nowadays,
Perfect.
very necessary. That one's too fuzzy. Let's see if this one. Sorry guys, it'll show up here in a sec. Why I'm not.
Say also, while you're looking, for next week, we will continue to bring on friends, probably one friend a week, and see how that goes. I think 3 people is a good amount of people to be chatting with. So next week we'll do same time. We'll start at 10 a.m. We'll go live, but we'll do all of the posting things so you can watch it later, and you'll be able also to see these videos on YouTube. If you look on YouTube, on my channel, on Cherise's channel, then you will see the links to your friend that we're featuring. So Kelley Doyle's website, Kelley Doyle's Patreon, that app that we're talking about that we are really loving. So all that stuff is going to be where you need it, where you can look, you can take a free class, you can check it out. And that way you kind of know where you're going, and you're not by yourself. We are alone maybe at our houses or just with our person, but we're not really alone. We have each other. So we'll make sure to post that. And also next week, we'll have on another friend, and a good mentor friend. So I think you have. Do you have your?
Yes, I found it.
Okay, awesome. So if you're watching,
where did you go? So it's fun because this is a poem that was shared. So in our teacher trainings, I'll often ask people to bring a poem to share, right? And this was a poem that was shared in one of my teacher trainings in Bishop when I was living there, and it's from a friend, and Jean Tucky. And so basically, I would say this is the equivalent to what you will hope that your mentor would always ask of you, right? So I have become grateful for the moments when I remember to stop in order to listen to what the earth has to tell me. This morning it was a flower who took me by surprise and shared her secrets with me. She told me of the quiet, cool embrace of the quiet, generous earth. She told me how the light called to her, and how slowly but solidly she began to unfold towards the simple inevitability of her calling. She told me of the exquisite cracking open of all she knew herself to be. The opening that felt like death until she realized it was her birth. And then, with her open petals, she asked me in the way only a full-bloomed flower can ask. What wants to be born in you, beloved? What does the light want to call into being from the quiet, generous earth that waits patiently in the cave of your heart?
That was beautiful.
I know. Oh, you feel that thing of you feel like you're dying until you realize you're being born. I'm like, ah, ah.
Yes.
Yeah. So why are we drawn to one another, right? These are the things, these resonant values that bring us together because we get it, we know, we feel, and we're now from that place of radical challenge and diversity, and we can share.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm so happy for you to come on, Kelly. And we'll do.
I love you so much. You know I
I
do.
really love you. Cherise, also I'm loving you, and we'll all chat really soon.
Yeah.
And I love you, Cherise. It's so good to meet you.
So good to meet you.
We're meeting on Zoom now. You can do this.
Thank you both so much for all of your like openness and sharing. It really filled me up, and I love just to watch that energy between you two because I do think that it is very clear and apparent and it has so much to give to others just by witnessing that. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Let's let the hands come to the heart. And as we like to close, take a deep breath in and let the arms rise up. So we're like a great tree growing from the roots and expanding, flowering like an open flower. Om Shanti Shanti.